They did. I don't think New York is Montgomery Gentry's town, but they did sing it here.
They were singing it in honor of Brian, because Brian is a New Yorker.
Right.
This is your town, baby.
Right. He reminds us. Yes. Hey, thank you very much. You know what today is? December 7th. A day that will live in infamy. And we are delighted that you would join us on this very, very busy Friday after a very busy news week.
That's right. Let's talk about what's happening in D.C. because James Comey is set to testify today behind closed doors. You know, he wanted it out in the open. This is going to be in front of the House Judiciary Committee. He tried to challenge this, but then he dropped that challenge when Republicans said, we'll agree to make this transcript public. You can talk about it and we'll release the transcript, which will probably be redacted.
Right. And Republicans wanted him behind closed doors because when the hearing is on TV, everybody gets to ask 5 minutes worth of questions. Bing! Time's up. Next, Republican, Democrat, behind closed doors.
Like the Kavanaugh thing, right?
They can actually get into much more meat of the subject. Now, the Republicans, though, have been divided. They said, you know, why are we bringing him up again? He has testified many times. He's been on television. He's written a book about all this stuff. Why don't we instead bring up Rod Rosenstein? Because it has been, I think, about 2 months since it was revealed in the pages of the New York Times that reportedly he questioned the president and his authority and thought, maybe I should wear a wire to catch him saying something dumb. Why not bring up the deputy attorney general instead of the guy who they've interviewed 1 million times?
Both. There isn't a limit. We don't have a guest list with a finite amount of lines on it, but it looks like he was able to play a delay a game. He ran out the clock as four corners offense, so to speak. But James Comey's got a problem. Since his book came out, there's been further investigations, and not only do people say your story doesn't add up, James Comey, but your story doesn't add up with Peter Strzok's story and Lisa Page's story. People that are on your team. Trey Gowdy weighed in on why they want behind closed doors and what would have happened had they been front and center in the bright lights.
Mueller. Not a single one of Mueller's interviews was done in public. Not a single one of the grand jury meetings was done in public. There's never been an FBI interview ever in the history of mankind that was done in public. So why Jim Comey, who the last time I was in a public hearing with him, over 100 times he said, I cannot answer in this setting. Why Mr. Transparency wants to go back to a setting where he knows he cannot answer the questions is befuddling to me, and I don't think my fellow citizens by that.
Now, most of the questions are going to be about why he decided not to charge Hillary Clinton before interviewing her, the political bias amongst those top FBI officials with their text messages, and then why there was favorable treatment to some of Hillary Clinton's advisors, like Cheryl Mills, her chief of staff.
What was going into the thinking? Also, I'll look for a lot of questions about the Trump-Russia stuff. But then again, he might answer just as he did right there. Can't really talk about it.
Well, he has to. Behind closed doors in front of the Intelligence Committee, he's got to talk about it.
You never know.
Well, that would look terrible.
I don't remember. Look for I don't remember. Anyway, that's later.
Maybe another book?
That's right.
He has permission to talk about it when he gets out.
That was his shot, Ainsley. I don't think he...
No more books?
He's got nothing else to say.
Well, let's see. In the meantime, we got another Fox News alert for you. President Trump is expected to announce Nikki Haley's replacement at any moment.
And he's also close to filling an opening at the Justice Department to replace Jeff Sessions. There are rumors about who that might be. Peter Doocy's live at the White House with who the president is eyeing. Peter?
Ainsley, Heather Nauert is set to become the highest-profile Trump nominee to face a Senate confirmation hearing since Brett Kavanaugh. And White House officials are telling us to be on the lookout any minute for a tweet with official word about promoting the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo's spokeswoman, Nauert, who previously worked here at Fox News. A big question now becomes, if confirmed, would Nauert serve as a cabinet-level official like outgoing Ambassador Nikki Haley did? The word inside the White House from sources that I've spoken to is that officials don't necessarily want this to be a cabinet-level position anymore. The president also has a vacancy at the Justice Department left by Jeff Sessions and is apparently looking to try to install former President George H.W. Bush's Attorney General William Barr. This is not somebody the president knows, but it is somebody who has a business background like the president, since he had a long career at Verizon after the DOJ, and Barr is somebody who seems to sympathize with the president's problems with the FBI director that he fired, because Barr has said in recent interviews he likes James Comey, but that the president should get to pick who the FBI director is. And both these moves represent a slow but steady shakeup of the Trump White House staff that was first assembled at Trump Tower and at Mar-a-Lago during the transition exactly 2 years ago. Back to you.
Peter Doocy up early at the White House. Mr. Barr is an interesting choice because in addition to working as Attorney General before, he also served at the Department of Justice at the same time that Robert Mueller was heading up the criminal division. So, you know, they have a history. I watched the video.
Was he
it's
the AG
amazing.
at that point, so he was his boss?
They were at the Department of Justice together. And then you've also got the component of if during the confirmation, Democrats would want to know, and those are some images of him, historical, Democrats would want assurances that he would not interfere with Mr. Mueller's investigation. So that's a big question.
He went to Columbia University,
Yep.
studied, got a degree in government and Chinese studies. He went to law school at GW at George Washington. He's 68 years old. He works at a firm in D.C. called Kirkland & Ellis, and he used to work for the CIA from 73 to 77. He also worked for Ronald Reagan, and as you said, he was the AG, served for 2 years under George H.W. Bush.
Jonathan Turley said last night he would be a brilliant choice. He goes by the book. He's as steady as a rock. Karl Rove also supportive. Listen.
I think he would be a very effective Attorney General. Remember, when he first became Attorney General, he was in his early 40s and approved by a very strong bipartisan vote, did a terrific job. He's now 68 years old. He would bring to it gravitas. He would bring to it some maturity. He would bring to it a balance. And I think he'd be a very effective Attorney General. Democrats would try and ask some tough questions in the confirmation hearing, no doubt about it. Some of them, because they're running for president, might be inclined to throw a little mud his direction. But I think it would serve the country well if Donald Trump made this decision, because I think it would give people confidence that there was somebody in there who would serve the interests of the United States.
That would be, listen, it seems to be roundly applauded. I just find it laughable that Democrats I want to make sure you're not going to interfere with the Mueller probe. No, you'll be in charge of supervising. That's the job. You can't tell him not to do his job. And I would say this about Heather Nauert. I mean, this is earned. She's been in there for 2 years. People have had a chance to see her. The president's had a chance to talk to her behind closed doors. They see the depth in which she knows these issues. They watch her respond to the press. She comes from, she has an Ivy League background after being here as well as ABC. I think this is one of these things that she's performed behind closed doors in a way that I think made her a favorite for this job.
Yeah, no doubt. She's very smart. We know her personally. She's been a good friend to all of us, and we wish her the best. She worked on this show for a long time.
She did indeed. So confirmation hearings upcoming for both if they are nominated.
Right. I think that the only thing is I read that National Security Advisor John Bolton says, oh, yeah, I think I want to take that position and no longer put it at the cabinet level. That would be something that I find it hard to believe that she would agree to, because that would be a step back from the prestige that Nikki Haley had.
Well, stay tuned. In the meantime, we've been talking a lot over the last month or so about the trouble at our southern border, and now the Department of Homeland Security has released some numbers. And over the last month, when you look year over year, the number of border arrests at our southern border has spiked. It's up more than 60% from 2017.
Look at these numbers. In November 2018, 51,856. And then compare that to last November, 29,085. My question is it because there are more troops down the border, or is it because of these caravans? More people are trying to get through.
Somehow the Central and South Americans are getting the message that it's okay to come here, that there'll be an opportunity. I hope they're getting the opposite message now. And that's why the president's got to spend millions of dollars to put our troops at the border, which means you need an actual border. There's actually people there reporting from Univision who are saying these people are leaving Tijuana, walking down 5 miles and going through where the wall shrinks and then disappears. But that doesn't stop Nancy Pelosi from weighing in and saying no wall.
Would you be willing to support some degree of wall funding if you got a permanent, bona fide solution on dock?
No. Most of us, speaking for myself, consider the wall immoral, ineffective, inexpensive. And the president said he promised it. He also promised Mexico would pay for it. So even if they did, it's immoral still, and then they're not going to pay for it. So that isn't how I would interpret a continuing resolution.
All right, so she's not willing to compromise, even on the DACA situation. You know, this president, he wrote the book, Art of the Deal. Maybe there's a compromise.
Right.
I'll give you this, you give me that, you give me the wall. I'll help the DACA recipients. And she's saying, no, I'm not willing to compromise. I am not giving money to this wall.
Right, and she was talking about the continuing resolution that will now fund the government through the 21st day of December, and then a new fight.
Yeah, there's nothing immoral about securing your border. That's called a country. Israel, did that immoral to seal their border? They did.
Brian, there are a lot of people who like it just the way it is.
Really?
She's
wide open. Okay, everyone's welcome.
All right, Carly Shimkus is welcome on this Friday. And
Thank
she's
you
got
so
the
much. Hey, good morning, guys.
Morning.
And we are following a developing story here. A police officer is shot in the face, and a suspect is killed with just one bullet. Officer Michael Smith fighting for his life following the shooting at a Georgia dentist office. It all started when employees called 911 to report an aggressive man. It is unclear who shot the officer's gun after the suspect lunged at him. Right now, Officer Smith is in critical condition. He is a 7-year department veteran. CNN given the all-clear overnight after its New York City offices are evacuated for a bomb threat. Police say an unidentified man called to report 5 explosive devices inside the building. Nothing was found. Earlier this year, a Florida man allegedly sent a suspicious package to the same CNN offices. That suspect is behind bars. Nobody was hurt. And in just a few hours, President Trump will head to Missouri to address hundreds of law enforcement officers. The president speaking at the Project Safe Neighborhoods National Conference in Kansas City. The 3-day event aims to strengthen cooperation between federal prosecutors and local law enforcement agencies to reduce gun violence and other violent crimes. A busy day, guys, and those are your headlines.
But you can handle it, Carly. You've been
Thank you
handling
so
2
much.
jobs all week.
I appreciate it.
She's a woman.
It's been fun.
That's true.
We can handle a lot.
Multitasking.
That's right.
One of our
That's what we do.
All right, and on behalf of men, I'll read the tease. Okay? With the power vested from me, from Carly. Meanwhile, while you were sleeping last night, there was a major shakeup for the Oscars. Kevin Hart just stepped down as host 2 days after taking the job because of something he said 7 years ago.
Plus, what should lawmakers ask James Comey today? Jason Chaffetz knows what it's like to grill the former FBI director. He's got the top 5 questions that they need to ask coming up next.